Hey everyone, it's Emily with Elephant Shoe Corner. Today I'm making 5 cards with 1 kit using Simon Says Stamp October card kit. Here's the Thankful Flowers stamp set in this kit. And we have 12 double-sided sheets of My Mind's Eye My Heritage 6x6 papers. There's a bunch of different patterns in here. I love these flowers. And then Houndstooth is my favorite, so we're going to be making a couple cards using the Houndstooth. There's some wood grain, and then more patterns, some leaves, some more of those pretty flowers. And then we're moving on to some envelopes. This is a gift card envelope. And then we have a metallic gold envelope. And then this is a walnut wood grain envelope. And then we have some Tim Holtz snips. They're tonic mini snips. And the Thanks wafer thin die. And here are some thickers. They are foil foam letter stickers. And here is some Tim Holtz Ideology metallic 8x8 craft stock papers. You get 2 sheets of 2 different colors. It's copper and rose gold. And you get 2 sheets of each of that. And then we have 4 pieces of cardstock. There's Nina Desert Storm, black, dark chocolate, and cream. And your sucker. The first card we're going to make is a card that says thanks using that wafer thin die. And first I'm going to cut my cardstock down to make some card bases. So I just wanted to show you using my paper trimmer here how easy it is to make my card bases. This is the Journey Blooms paper trimmer. So I cut 1 piece of cardstock right down the middle at 5.5 inches. And then I'm going to switch it over to my other side and I'm going to score it at 4.25. So on this Journey Paper Blooms, the green is the cutting blade and the orange blade is the scoring. And then I can score it and I can easily fold it in half. And I have my card base. I normally make my card bases ahead of time, so I just have those ready to go. So there's my card base. These are super easy to do with this trimmer. I like this one a lot. And for card number 1, I'm going to make my own background using one of the flower stamps. I'm going to attach that to my stamp block and ink it up with some Memento Tuxedo Black ink. I'm using Memento because I'm going to be Copic coloring this later. So I cut a piece of cardstock. It's Express It blending card is what I use for Copic coloring. So that's what I'm using today for this card. And I cut that to 4.25 by 5.5. And then I'm going to randomly stamp my flower all around. There's really no rhyme or reason. I just stamp it where it looks best. And you can see that on some of them I stamped the flower partially off because I like the look of that best. I don't want all full flowers. I want some of them coming off the page. So there's my background. And then I'm bringing in my Copics. The first Copics I'm going to be using are RV29, RV25, and RV23. I like to start with my darkest first, so I'm starting here with RV29. And these flowers, they have some black lines for the shading. So I'm going over those first with my darkest color, so RV29. And then after I have that, I'm going back over that with RV25. And I'm just lightly flicking my marker So back, I'm starting with the darkest, and I just flick it up, and then I'm going to go to my lightest color, which is RV23, and I'm going to fill in the rest of that flower. And I'm getting a nice even blend between my three colors. I decided to only show a couple of the petals being colored for this video because it is time consuming and I didn't want the video to be too long on this particular card. But if that's something you're looking for, please leave a comment below and I can work on a video showing how I color this entire card for a future video. So if that's something you're looking for, please leave a comment below. So again, I went over the dark shadow places with my RV29. And then I went back over that with my RV25. So I go darkest to lightest, and I use 3 different colors on this flower. And then I go to my lightest, RV23, and I fill in the rest of that flower. And I get a nice blend. And you can see here with my lightest color, I am going over the whole petal. I'm starting with where it was the darkest and working my way up. That's how it gets the nice blend. I'm going over the whole thing again to kind of blend out those other 2 colors with my RV23. So there's that. And I did use some other colors for the other flowers. I used B66 and B63 for the purple. I just used 2 colors on that one. And then for the teal, I used BG49, BG15, and BG11. And then for the centers, I used YR21 on all of them. I used the Thanks die to cut out a piece of the Tim Holtz Ideology metallic copper paper. And to get that out of the die, I'm just using my crafting tweezers. There are little holes in the back of the die that you can poke those right through. And then you can see I'm easily able to get my piece of paper out of the die. And there it is, and that's the copper. And you can see I'm just trying to figure out the placement of it. I'm not sure where I want it. And then I end up deciding to go towards the top and centered. And that's where I'm going to put it. And once the placement's decided, I just need to glue it down. So I'm going to get out my Tombow liquid glue. And it doesn't take a whole lot. So I mainly go over the thicker parts of the letters, like the T and the H and the A. You can see where it's thicker. It just needs a thin little line. And then I put little dots on the smaller parts just to make sure it's all adhered down. And you don't want to use too much because you don't want it gushing out all over your card. So I just use just a little bit, just enough to get it to stick, but not too much where it's making a mess. And then I have that ready. And I'm going to put it where I decided to on my card. And just lightly press it down. And there it is. And now I just need to adhere that onto a card base. The cardstock I used for my card base is Fun Stampers Journey Whipped Cream cardstock, and that's cut down to 5.5 by 8.5 and scored down to 4 1/4. And I'm using my advanced tape glider to adhere that on. And one thing you need to remember is to clean off your glass mat after you're done stamping. We had some black ink after we stamped the flowers off the edges of the cardstock, so you just want to make sure that's clean before you flip your paper over to tape it. Otherwise, you'll have black smudges on your card. So there's card number 1. All done. Card number 2 is another thank you card. I'm using some of the pattern paper that came with the card kit and the cream cardstock. Here's the cream cardstock cut down to 2 by 4 3/4, and I'm putting that in my mini MISTI, and I'm going to place my flower, and I'm going to place my thank you just to make sure I have enough room, but I'm not going to stamp them both yet. I just want to make sure I have room at the bottom for the thank you. And then I'll take that out, and then I'll attach that flower to my MISTI. Make sure my paper is placed where I want it. And then I'm going to ink that up again with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Then I'm going to press that down. And it looks like I got a solid image there, so I don't need to do it again. And now I'm going to clean off my stamp and remove it. And then I'm going to add my thank you back where I wanted it. Make sure I get that placed so it all fits on the cardstock. Then I'm going to attach that to my MISTI, and then I'm going to ink that up. And for that, I'm going to use Fun Stampers Journey Cranberry Bliss ink. And this one I'm going to have to ink up a few times to make sure I get a solid image. And we're going to be coloring this flower in with some Copics later as well. And here I'm happy with the image. So we're done with the MISTI, and I'm just going to go ahead and clean my stamp and take the paper off the MISTI and start our Copic coloring. I used 4 Copic colors to color in this image. I used R59 and R56 for the petals. And I again go over the dark lines that are shaded areas of the stamp with my darkest, so that's R59. And I just quickly go over those. There's some on the top and the bottom of the petals. This is a pretty quick flower to color. It doesn't take too much effort. It's pretty simple. And normally I just do 1 or 2 petals at a time, but this one was pretty quick and easy, so I just went around all of the dark edges of the flower at one time. And then once I'm done with the darkest, I move to my R56, and I start towards the middle and work my way out. And I go right over the dark areas that I did because I'm blending it. So I start on top of the dark and move my way about halfway up the petal. And I'm only using 2 colors instead of 3 on this flower. So then once I've gone all the way around it once, I'm going to go back over that again and then drag that all the way up to the top. Again, I'm only going to show the full process for a couple of the petals because the process is the same for all the petals. And then for the middle, I used YR12, and for the stem, I used Y03. And you can see here that the bottom of the leaves are darker. I just went over those a couple more times with that same color. So all of the stem and leaves were using Y03. And now I just need to adhere all of my pieces with my advanced tape glider. Here I have the houndstooth pattern paper that came with the kit. And I'm adhering that onto, it's almost a plaid that came with the kit. And the houndstooth is 1.5 by 4 1/4. And I'm putting that onto the other pattern paper, which is cut down to 4 1/4 by 5.5. So So that will fit perfectly onto our card base. And now I'm adhering the cream cardstock that we colored our flower onto. And again, that cream cardstock was cut down to 2 by 4 3/4. And I'm just going to attach that right to the center of our card layer. And then all we have to do is attach the card layer to the card base. And then we have our second thank you card. There we go, card number 2. Card number 3 is super simple. There's no stamping, no coloring. I just cut up some of the pattern paper and die cut the word thanks. So it's a very quick and easy. I have 3 different pattern papers. I cut the flowers with the black background and white flowers. I have 2 of those. And then there's a matching one that is the reverse colors of white background and black flowers. So those 3 pieces I cut to 1 7/8 by 2 5/8. And then I attached those to some green cardstock. This cardstock happens to be Fun Stampers Journey Limeade Splash. And that layer that I'm putting the pattern paper onto is 2 by 2 3/4. So I'm going to do that same process for all of them. Then I'm going to put them on the houndstooth, and that houndstooth paper I have is 4 by 5 1/4. So first I'm going to attach my houndstooth to my card base. That card base is also the Fun Stampers Journey Limeade Splash, and that's 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored down to 4 1/4. And sometimes I find it easier to open the card base when I'm attaching a layer, especially when it's going to have a border around the edge. I just find it easier to center. So now I'm going to adhere the pieces that I'd cut out of pattern paper. I want the dark ones to be on the bottom and then the lighter one to be on top. And I love these pattern papers. I like how there's a white flower with a black background and a black flower with a white background. I think they look really well together on this card. And of course, the houndstooth. Houndstooth is my absolute favorite, so I couldn't not make a card with that. I even have a coat that's a houndstooth coat. Not this green color, obviously, but I do love houndstooth. And then I went ahead and die cut the word thanks again, using again the copper. And I'm going to go ahead and use my Tombow liquid glue to glue that on, just like I did my other one. And this time I'm going to glue that right in the center. And a little goes a long way. You don't want to use too much glue. Otherwise you'll have a mess all over your card. And I'm just making sure I have it on all the small pieces so nothing sticks out from my card. And I'm going to go ahead and put it down right across the middle. And there we go, card number 3. Super simple, like I said, no stamping, no coloring, so it's a really easy card. Card number 4 is another super simple one. This one uses some stamping, but that's it. There's no die cutting, no Copic coloring, so this one's also pretty easy and fast. So I have a white piece of cardstock, and I'm going to put the big flower arrangement in the center. And again, I'm going to use my MISTI. And this white cardstock is Fun Stampers Journey Whipped Cream cardstock, and it's cut down to 5 by 3 3/4. And I'm making sure my white cardstock is where I want it. And I'm going to ink this up with Fun Stampers Journey Cranberry Bliss ink. And I wanted to use my MISTI because it's a pretty detailed stamp, so it's easy to miss some of it. So I'm probably going to go over this a few times. And you can see my image isn't quite solid, so I am going to go over it again. And the beauty of the MISTI is it keeps your paper in place so you can easily go over more than once. And you can see I'm still missing part of that middle, so I just go back and push it down. And I still decided to do one last one because I wasn't quite happy with the image yet. So I'm going to do it one more time. And now I'm happy with the image. It's quite solid, so. I'm going to clean off my stamp and remove it, and then I'm going to add my sentiment. And the sentiment is also from the Thankful Flowers stamp set from this card kit. The sentiment I'm using is "You're amazing." So I've cleaned off my stamp and I'm removing it. And now I'm going to place my sentiment on the image where I want it, and I want it centered. Once I have it where I want it, I close the MISTI and attach the stamp right to it. Now I'm going to use my Fun Stampers Journey Black Licorice ink. I'm going to ink up my stamp. And I know that I want to use this at least twice. I want my image to be solid, especially so you can read it over the red flowers. I was pretty happy with that, but I wanted to do just one more, just to make sure. And there, that turned out really great. I was really happy with this one. And now I need to attach it to my card base. And the card base is also Fun Stampers Journey cardstock, Cranberry Bliss. It matches the ink. And that card base again is 5.5 by 8.5, scored down to 4 1/4. And I'll adhere that on using my Advanced Tape Glider. And there you go, card number 4. Card number 5 is super simple. I think I've said that with all of them, and they have all been really easy besides the coloring, which is just time consuming but not very difficult. But this one, I just used a piece of the pattern paper. It's the one with the very pretty flowers on it. And I cut that down to 4 1/4 by 5.5, and I attached it to my card base. And I'm going to use the thickers, the foil foam letter stickers, And with these, there are tons of letters that come with it, so you can really come up with your own sentiment. I decided to go with love you, because you can never have too many cards that say love you. And you just peel them and stick them right on. And I've never actually used these before, but they were very easy to use. And they stuck really well. I wasn't sure how well they would stick, but I did this one and I didn't have any problems with it sticking. It seemed like they adhered pretty well to the card, so. And then I just line it up how I want it and press it down, and then it's done. So first word is love, and then I'm going to do just you. Super simple. And then card number 5 is done. I'm going to go ahead and show you all of the cards we made today one last time. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please click like and subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. I hope you enjoyed all of today's cards. Thank you.